Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening if you're racing in the UK, because we've gone stateside. It's the Miami Grand Prix this weekend. We're back. I'm here. I'm Alex. That's Dan. It's the Lapdown Podcast. Hello.
Hello. I'm excited. I'm so excited. I'm a bit disappointed we haven't painted ourselves orange or something because of
I'm
our
in a livery.
contractual obligation. Yeah, I know, but that's
I've
just
got a special
t-shirt that
Miami
you bought
livery.
from Topshop for a couple of quid, wasn't it? And you found at the back of the wardrobe.
It's from Connor. It's a very nice t-shirt. It's got kangaroo paws on it, and that's a plant for those of you not watching, not an actual animal part.
Oh.
There you go.
Sponsored by them?
Oh, God, no.
Well, point.
Though if they'd like to, lapdownpod@gmail.com. Get that in early.
Yeah, it's Miami. Welcome to Miami. We're back. Yeah, it's been a good year so far, and we've had a week off. You've been to Copenhagen. I've been walking. We're back for Formula One. People have been painting shit different colours, and that's what we're most qualified to talk about. So that's exactly what we're going to talk about. Plus, we're going to talk about the fact that Max has had a kid, and we're going to talk about some other bits and bobs as well. We saw some YouTube gamer person driving around the new circuit in Madrid, which was terrible. But we are going to talk about all of it because this is the only place that you can get reliable and completely factual, unbiased Formula One news anywhere in the world.
Provided it's about colours. We're good at colours. The coloury bits, we can do that. It feels... Now, I understand that what I'm doing here is talking about how F1 has largely always been, right? And I will preface that from the start that I understand what I'm saying. It does feel a little bit more exciting because we had a week off.
Yeah.
And we talked about this with the triple headers, and I think this is proving the point that I don't think either of us really love Miami as a circuit or a venue, or we have no particular, affinity for Miami. But you miss a week, and you want it, and you get to Friday morning when we're recording this on a bloody Sprinter, and it's like fucking cars, here we go.
We're sprunting.
We are sprunting, but just when they sprunt, you go, oh, it's cars again, is it? It's just, I don't know. I used to want to take in as much racing as possible, and now I'm seeing the light of actually, it's kind of nice to build it up for 2 weeks.
Well, I think Miami needs to be built up for 2 weeks because, as you said, we don't have any affiliation with Miami. If you'd like to take us to Miami, please do get in contact with you at the email address that Alex mentioned slightly earlier in the podcast. We're 2.5 minutes in and we've already begged twice for freebies,
Yes.
which is quite impressive. Listen to us, give us free shit.
Please.
But it does need it. Miami needs it. It feels like of all the Grand Prix, it needs the longest amount of time to build up to it because... Actually, for a Formula One fan, I think the Grand Prix is a bit poo. But what you do get is you do get lots of NFL people catching balls to Formula One drivers, and you get lots of special helmets and special coloured wheel hubcaps and special race suits and special random commemorative paddock t-shirts as well. And it just feels like it needs that kind of razzmatazz. And even... This is where I think I get a little bit lost with Vegas because the hype and the build-up and the show and the panache and the panaz that goes into Miami feels like it should be for Vegas, but it's not.
Yes, I would agree. I wonder whether the fact it's a night race in Vegas doesn't help that because a special livery generally looks a little bit better during the day. I think I don't know why that just feels the way to me. It's interesting you mentioned the paddock because it's also. Miami's probably my favourite paddock of the Grand Prix season because I just love the fact that they stick them in the stadium like some sort of disaster relief shanty town. Like, oh, we've got a stadium, sweet. That's managed to stay dry in there. Right, stick a load of tents up in there. We'll pop them in there.
Hurricane Wilma's just passed through the Florida Keys.
Wilma's been, and they're all snuggled up for warmth together inside the stadium, and it's just. I don't know why. It just makes it feel a bit pony that they've just... Oh, well, the stadium's there, so we'll just stick him in the stadium on the field in some tents, shall we?
Yeah.
And you just think, we go to... some of the other tracks, like China and Abu Dhabi and stuff, got these wonderful sort of almost artistic pit lanes, and you see Ted do his, notebook, and he's walking through, and there's permanent structures and canopies and gardens and palm trees. And then you go to Miami, and it's just... Oh, they're on AstroTurf in the stadium and they've got to go through the concourse, by the disused hot dog stand to get there. But yeah, look, you take it for what it is. It's a bit of fun. And I like that they go special livery season in Miami, I think, because it does lend itself to good specialness. Some of them have still missed the mark, and we'll get to that in a second because there's going to be plenty color chat. But it does, it's color generally, and Miami, I've never, well, I have been to Miami, but a long time ago. But Miami's just loud and it's neon and it's fluid. That's my mental perception of Miami anyway. So they go all out generally with it, and they've gone all out, and at least it puts some interest in there.
Yeah. Hey, look, at the end of the day, it's an influencer garden party with a bit of Formula One going on in the background.
Marina party. Thank you.
That's what I said. It's a bit of a garden party that's got a few kind of people that you've never heard of kicking around, getting tagged on Instagram on the official Formula One thing where it goes, so the stars are in town.
Oh, here they come.
You go, yeah, I don't know who they are. But no, it's good, and I think you're right. I think of all the Grand Prix, I think it does work best that people go a bit kind of fruity around Miami. Is that the thing that does kind of just kind of confuse me a little bit with it is it does feel like there is some sort of contractual obligation to make sure that Miami is a bit fancy in comparison to the others, because other than the fact that, as you said, Miami stereotypically anyway is a little bit showy and a little bit bright, but there'd be no reason why one of these teams couldn't run that special livery in Spain, for example. But it just feels like it's a Miami. We've had a knock on the door from the people that do the whole Formula One world, and they've gone, don't forget to get your homework in by next week because we're going to Miami, lads. It just feels a little bit like that sometimes, because there are a hell of a lot of helmets, liveries, race suits, special trainers, and all of that good stuff that actually maybe if it was just kind of just interspersed around the season and stuff, maybe it'd feel slightly more special rather than, oh, it's Miami, everybody's got to do something outlandish. I don't know. Just a different look at it.
Money's the answer, isn't it? We know money's the answer. And that's why you see a lot of special edition liveries in, kosher as well, and why we tend to sprint, I think, in the Americas, because it all feels a little bit America coded, that there's a special T-shirt and a hat and a special race format for the American races. Yeah, it's an interesting point, actually, on the grouping of special liveries and stuff. And I know they don't, but you would almost like the teams to sit down at a meeting at the start of the year, and there's a table in front of them. And I'm going to go back to the Office episode where they're dishing out the bonuses and they put beans on people's faces, right? And I like the idea that all of the team principals have to sit down in a room with all the track maps on the table, and they all get 2 beans, right? And you can choose where you want to put your beans, and that's where you're having a special livery. But there can only be 1 bean on a track. Can't go double bean, because we've got 24 races, right? We've got 10 teams. They could each do 2 special liveries a season, and they can each have their own weekend where it's their turn to do a special livery for this weekend. And then it could be a little bit more of an event, because otherwise it's a race to announce them first, and they drib them to drab them. And yeah, we've got 3 special liveries this weekend, and then we've got 3 special liveries plus Mercedes, who did everything but the car.
Yeah, and we've got 2 special liveries, and we've got 1 special livery.
Yeah. We'll get to it in a second. We will. I think we're probably going to have very similar opinions on a lot of this. I think everyone at home is going to have very similar opinions on a lot of it. But yeah, I don't know. You don't want to put rules around fun, right? Organised fun is never fun. So have free reign, do whatever you want. And at this rate, RB are going to run more special edition liveries than they're going to run their own livery at this rate, which I'm all for. But yeah, it feels like we get clogged up. Some of the paint pipes get clogged up a little bit, and they all land in the same place. And it would just be nice if they'd have a word to each other and just go, right, is anyone doing Miami? Because if not, we'll do Miami.
Particularly when you've got kind of a complete amateur podcast like ourselves, about the only thing we're qualified to talk about. It does kind of just condense us a little bit, and we do have some weekends that we don't have that much to talk about. But
give us
who do you want to talk about first? Which part of this kind of livery, helmet, special T-shirts combination do you want to go through first? Do you want to go for a big boy, or do you want to just rattle through some of the smaller fish?
I think we'll go. Let's start with the main event paint. Let's start with the main event paint because I actually don't think there's necessarily a huge amount. Having just built up that we're the paint boys,
Yes.
there's not actually a huge amount to talk about with these liveries, I don't think, because I think we're kind of just going to go bang, 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 have very similar opinions, and I think they're quite universal opinions.
Okay.
So, shall we do... we'll go into a slightly more detail on it, but shall we go bang, 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 and I would like one word from you to describe the livery, and I don't want you to overthink it. It's like word association, right? I'm going to throw the livery at you.
Gotcha.
And I want you to throw the first word that comes to mind back at me.
Nailing it.
Steak.
Same.
Ferrari.
Worse.
RB.
Pink.
There you go. And that, I think that about sums it up. that about sums it up. We'll go in that order. Steak's special edition livery is less colourful and less special than their normal livery. It's just been spunked on now.
What they've done, and I don't exactly know how they've managed to do it, but they've gone up one tier of the Formula 1 2025 Paddock Pass on the new EA game, and they've unlocked a new livery. And what they've decided to do in their My Team career mode, or whatever the bloody hell it's called in F1 2025, is they've just gone, I'm just going to see what it looks like on the car. And what they've done is they've looked at it and they've gone, it's all right. Yeah, you know what, I'll put it on there for 1 week. And what they'll do is they'll just switch back to it the week afterwards because they've decided that actually it isn't quite as good and it's not that big of a change. That's what Stake have done for the Miami Grand Prix. Tell me I'm wrong.
No, you're not. The reveal video, okay, well produced reveal video. I don't know if you saw it. The paint globules floating around over the all black car.
Better than the one in the O2.
Drop it on. But the worst bit for me of the reveal video was the amount of paint that dripped off of the car. Because, okay, good idea. Okay, you're going to go a paint style livery, whatever, and we're going to drop some balls of paint on it. But if you're going to do that, cover the fucking car in paint. Don't then have half of that paint in your own video recede off and fail to stick, and then you have a mainly black car with some green blobs on it. Like, surely this was the weekend for them to have an almost entirely green car because you dropped paint all over it. But it's not unattractive. It's just incredibly boring, and it's somehow more boring than their normal livery.
Yeah.
Not on
Totally
board.
agree with you.
Not on board.
Agree. But when they get to level 7 of the Paddock Pass, whew,
Maybe
we
they're
are
in a second
for a
colour.
treat.
Ferrari. Wow. Fuck yourselves.
Yeah.
Why bother?
Do you know, with the brand of Ferrari and Lewis Hamilton, I'm really surprised that HP have got that much power over what they can and can't do. I must admit, bearing in mind, I think there is some rumour about Ferrari road cars kind of being told or telling their customers that no, you can't have it in green. I'm really surprised that HP have got the ability to somehow continually put the wagon in front of the horse here.
Mm-hmm.
And it does look, it was terrible to start with, and they've just made it worse, so much worse, because the blue adds nothing. Just give us something nice, Ferrari. You have the safest cards to play in the whole paddock. You don't even have to think about your livery each year, and you'd still look the absolute bollocks. You'd be a medal position livery every single year if you literally just gave us a red car.
Mm-hmm. What I don't get, I get it entirely, but what I don't get, and they do it every single year with their special livery, and it's actually just the S in special, and they forget the rest of the word. I don't actually hate and it is legitimately HP logo turned into a design quadrant of the livery. I don't mind it. It's just kind of a geometric-y, abstract-y, white and blue design. Put it on the whole car, and then I don't think anyone would really mind. I think if they made the whole car white with a bunch of those angular HP logos in a pattern, everyone would go, fuck it, let's go. Why not? Like, okay, we get it. It's a sponsor livery, but we've made it a pretty sponsor livery. But by making it, by shoehorning it into a tiny bit of the engine cover, it's like, now we know it's not special. You're just doing it for money. But you could have, and put a red version of the Schwabitas in there and go all out, and you're not going to get... No one's ever going to criticize them for going too far, I don't think, on a one-off.
You'd say that, but I wouldn't be at all surprised if there wasn't some form of kind of treason law in place in Italy that means that you can't have a not red Ferrari Formula 1 car.
So don't do it then.
Well, that's precisely the point. Like, I don't think we're ever going to get a Ferrari Formula 1 car from the main team that's going to turn up to be blue because of HP. I don't see that happening at all. I think it is going to be red, but then they just seem to have picked up that. And maybe it's on them, to be fair. Maybe they should have turned around and said no to Hewlett-Packard, and they should have gone off and got a sponsor that actually kind of fits their branding quite nicely, like Marlboro, for example. That was good back in the day. That was perfect. And now apparently we don't allow cigarettes on Formula 1 cars.
Do Marlboro not do a snuff packet? They must do. Surely.
Probably.
Stick
Why
that
not?
Version on it.
But anyway, maybe that's on them.
Yeah. If you're going to do it, do it. And if you're not going to do it, just don't. Just don't. Do what Mercedes did and just do... Because the race suits, lovely. We'll talk about race suits more in a second. But the Ferrari race suits are what the car should be. They are completely different. They are special. So they could have just done what Mercedes have done and gone, we're not changing the car. Car's locked in. But we'll paint the boys. We'll get the boys in the old spray cupboard. It's just... Yeah.
Works.
It's irritating. It's actually... I'm not even a Ferrari fan, and I'm irritated by it because it's just the hype and the pomp every time for wank.
Yeah, it's a fair comment. It's a bit like the Alpine from 2024, isn't it?
Mm.
I think you could probably describe it as a cock tease.
Yes. But it was a cock tease where it was... You knew that they weren't going to put out. But then they said we might put out, and then they just flick the tip of it for like an hour and a half, and then they go home. And it's like, I knew you were going to go home, but then there was a very small window where oh no, you went home.
But I suppose the thing is, if you're going to continue on this analogy, you always felt like you had a chance with Alpine.
Yeah.
Whereas Ferrari, I think, is one of those that
because Alpine's got history of getting it all the way.
Well, that, and I think Alpine's probably a 5. Whereas I think with a Ferrari, I think you're kind of going along that line. So you're going, geez, I stand a chance here with an 11. Lads, no, but AB, you've been there 3 times and nothing. But it's not gone anywhere.
But they replied again. But they replied, Dan.
Well, they did reply, but we've been there before, AB. We know how this plays out. But anyway, before this podcast gets any weirder and takes another turn down to a route where we both become cancelled quite quickly, let's talk about the V-Carb or the RB or the Racing Bulls or whatever the bloody hell they're going to be called this weekend, because nobody really knows. They've gone pink, which I can only assume, coming to a convenience store or a petrol station near you very soon, will be some form of raspberry, vanilla and elderberry summer edition Red Bull drink.
Yeah, and I'm all fucking for it.
Yeah, I like it.
I'm even if it was, and they have gone can heavy for not the first time, but they're on the nose, I think, for the first time here of, oh yeah, we're Red Bull. Like this year more so, I think, than recent times. They've gone heavier, I think, on just accepting that they are the Red Bull second team. But it's a very nice livery, objectively. Putting aside whatever team it is, any team on the grid could run that livery, and I would have gone, that's a really nice looking car. And then you've got the wheel covers of the tops of the Red Bull cans, and it's like, you know what? That's both fun, like the chrome McLaren ones. It's a good use of a circle. I'm impressed on a technological level how you've managed to paint that with the level of detail they have onto quite a weird shape and surface and whatever, and have it look good. But even if all of this was a big reveal for a special flavored Red Bull, great, well done, because you've done it properly. I don't care if the cars are already billboards. I don't care if you use them solely for the purposes of selling one specific thing. It's the same way we've seen Star Wars liveries and Indiana Jones bollocks and all of that. Make it a giant car. Put the car on the top. Turn the air intake into a Red Bull can Duracell style. It's great.
Yeah,
It's great.
Well, I think it is. I think I just can't find out what flavour the summer edition of Red Bull is actually going to be, but I think it is exactly that. It's to celebrate the summer edition of Red Bull for this year, which is perfect. And I think the thing is, as you've just said, if you go all in for these things and you actually kind of build your team up around a sponsor's livery, you can make some really cool things. The one that, or a couple really, or one that stands out in particular, you just go back to the 90s and you look at that Benson and Hedges Jordan, which was the Buzzin' Hornets, and it had the kind of the wasp face on the nose cone, and it flew all the way back in that yellow, and it just worked really well. It's not like, as we've spoken about, Ferrari just sticking some dog egg blue on the back of it to go, yeah, no, we're sponsored by HP and we love HP and this is our HP livery because we're basically a photocopier is essentially what Ferrari have kind of developed themselves as, and they've done a really terrible job at it. Whereas VCarb here, easy to get that mixed up, have done it perfectly. They haven't just turned around and gone, yeah, but the livery's really good. So what if we just put some like pink rear wing end plates on it? Because it's the summer edition and it'll be fine. Like, no one will notice and no one will care. They've gone, no, fuck it. We've gone for the whole thing and it looks the bollocks. I don't think their older brother would be cool enough to do this, mind you. And I think the big boys at Red Bull have looked at the kind of the little brother and kind of go, well, we've got a free hit with him. We've messed up the first kid we've got the first kid perfect, so we can just have a play about with this one and see what kind of extracurricular or kind of left wing and slightly kind of loosey-goosey parenting tactics we can do with VCarb and just see what they turn out as a child.
Yeah.
And they're doing all right at it.
Yeah, they are. And it's, I touched on it before, RB can run as many special edition liveries as they want this year for me. I would quite happily see them run 24 special edition liveries. As nice as their actual one is, they are... It's unfair on all the men and women of RB that do work incredibly hard on that team as a proper team to call it a meme team, right? And that I understand that is being disrespectful, but I hope people see the nice place that I'm coming from with it. If you're going to be the meme team, meme it up, and they are, and it's really refreshing. I actually think a lot of people did sort of write them off a little bit, us included, I think, over the last maybe 2 years, because they did start to sort of fade into a bit of obscurity. The results weren't there, and they kind of had no personality.
That's what happens when you put Daniel Ricciardo in the car, isn't it?
And they now, I'm going to let that one through to the keeper.
Much like Daniel Ricciardo did to the cars behind him.
And now, he was going wonderfully until he sacrificed himself for... Who did he sacrifice himself for? Oscar, I think. He sacrificed his own wrist so that Oscar may become world champion in 2025. They found a personality this year. And well done, whoever the top brass is at RB in that creative team, that they've obviously sat down and had a real deliberate decision, because it's a notable deviation. They haven't sort of drifted this way and then found it. They've taken a real fork in the road to we're going to be a team full of personality, and they're smashing it. Well done. Well done.
Good for them. Good for them. Right. Helmets, race suits.
Race suits, I think, is going to be a real quick one, I think.
Okay.
Ferrari race suits, great. Well done. Why doesn't the car look like that? That's special. It looks smart. Yes, they do look like Williams drivers, but it's special edition. All bets are off in a special edition. You can look like another team. That's what it is.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
RB race suits, again, smashed it. Wonderful. They absolutely look like Alpine drivers, but that's the fun of the game. It's fancy dress and you look great. Talk to me about Merc, and we'll bundle in merch into this conversation.
Yes, please. I love a bit of Mercedes
because
merch.
It's all the same, and they're basically wearing the same thing, just printed onto different shapes and different materials.
Yes, correct. What
are we saying about the Merc Miami special edition human liveries? Because I'm going to say it. It grows on me more and more every time I see it. We had that sort of leak from an F1 store in Australia that put it in the window a bit early, and then everyone saw it, and I think that was a little bit striking for people.
Yeah.
It's... you know what? I like it. I'm going to say it. I like it.
I do like it.
I don't know why I like it.
Absolutely no idea why it's come from Miami, though.
Nope.
It feels like a jersey that could have been stuck out at any point in the season and it would have gone quite well. But it kind of, again, potentially feels like there was a contractual obligation there to do something special for Miami. And what they've done is they've just created some fairly jazzy football shirts for them to wear around the paddock, which they've done pretty well, to be fair to them. There is a lot of stuff here on the Mercedes Formula One team store. Some of the stuff actually does look genuinely really good. But you have to be of the kind of the safe and sound mind that whatever you buy here, you are going to walk around with a tiny little Mercedes badge on your left nipple, with AMG Petronas Mercedes Formula One team on your nice shiny, because there's some good stuff. Like there's some really nice like panel pocket t-shirts, and there's some big like reverse graphic t-shirts as well that do look really good. They've even got swim shorts. Oh, Alex, if you need
it's Miami.
£40.
We've got a marina.
Floral swim shorts. They have a bucket hat. They have trainers.
Are we still doing bucket hats?
Pardon?
Are we still doing bucket hats? You strike me as a bucket boy.
Apparently so. £38
for the Mercedes no, we're not doing bucket hats.
So cheaper than shorts.
Oh, good.
Less material, £2 cheaper. Slightly less usable, I suppose. But anyway, if you'd like to look like a Mercedes Formula One driver and you have a particularly small head, you can buy a 1-in-2 replica of George Russell or Kimi Antonelli's less than pink helmet for the weekend for £180. Plus, you'd be able to get a £100 driver-specific T-shirt, floral tee, for £100. So if you'd like to look like a Kimi Antonelli, do you reckon Kimi Antonelli has a 1-in-1 helmet, or do you think the 1-in-2 helmet just fits his tiny little child head anyway?
His tiny little child head. It still makes me laugh on like all the posters and stuff. Like their race week posters and whatever. When he's side by side with George, he does genuinely look like he's 10 years old. Like it's a father and son F1 movie or something. You mentioned there
coming soon with Brad Pitt and whoever the other bloke was called.
You mentioned there about like, it's just a tiny little Mercedes badge on it and whatever.
Yeah.
I actually quite like that in sports merch. So coming from a little sports media-y background, I was involved in many discussions around what we're doing with merch and shirts and stuff this year. And I am a big fan of what I used to call guerrilla merch, in the sense of, if you see me on the street and you are also a fan of that same team, you probably have a quiet moment that you spot that little logo, or you know that that shirt is from that team, and you go, ooh, and we just have a little head nod, just a teensy tip. But if you don't know that, get the design right, that it's just a nice garm, and then make the team element an Easter egg, or make it team wear, and it's all about, and it's the replica shirt or whatever. But I actually quite like when make it casual, in the sense that make it something that can just be worn, full stop, that doesn't just have to be worn in a sporting context or at the gym or something like that. Let me embrace that I am a Mercedes fan, but let me embrace that in Aldi, where it's not appropriate for me to be wearing a fire retardant race suit. I've always enjoyed that. I've always just enjoyed subtlety in sports and merch type branding. I like being in like almost like a little secret club.
Nice. Well, I can send you a link if you like, or you can wait a couple of weeks and it'll be in TK Maxx for half the price. So your choice.
I thought you were going to say you could send me some, and I was going to say yes, and it was going to be our third freebie of the episode. No, I shall wait for. To be fair, you get a lot of Adidas stuff in a TK, so I can see that a lot of Castor stuff popping up in TK now, particularly because they've lost the McLaren contract mid-contract. The amount of, I don't understand how these like branding people at the various sports teams that keep signing Castor don't see all the news articles of all the other teams that sign with Castor on a multi-year deal and then break that contract midway through and go, well, let's sign with them. Having been on the receiving end of a Castor pitch, I can tell you it's because they just offer you money and offer you the world, and that's why all these people sign with them and then regret their decision. With an Atlas. But yeah, they're going Puma, I think, McLaren, aren't they? They're going back to...
Good for them.
Going back to
Good
Puma.
for them. Helmets.
I've divided the helmets into two tiers for the Miami Grand Prix.
Oh, yeah.
I have my S-Class, and then I have the rest of them. And I've got 3 in my S-Class, and I'm sure you can guess who they are, because they are...
Lando.
And...
Alex.
And...
I'm not actually sure on the third one. Charles?
No, Esteban Ocon, he's tried. It's special.
Sorry, Esteban. I apologise. Esteban.
Because, and it's back to my RB thing of embrace the meme. They've not memed it, but if you're going to make a special edition helmet, make it special. Don't just make it a different colour of your normal helmet, Lewis Hamilton. I'm talking to you. You made your little red shibbities into blue shibbities. If you're going to do it, stick a fucking disco ball in your head and wave your cock about in the paddock. You know, like, let's be loud and proud about it, which those three chaps are. I think they're all really nice. And then you've got the two Mercedes boys, the two Ferrari boys, and Liam Lawson has just thrown a rogue helmet in there. Have you got a favourite Miami Special Edition helmet, Dan?
Do I have a favourite? Mate, I don't know. I like Alex Albon's, but I'm unsure whether he now has just a big sponsorship with oranges or whether he has a bit of an orange fetish or whether they're his favourite fruit.
Well, they grow a lot of oranges in Florida.
No, I understand that bit, but there's a lot of other things going on in Florida, so I'm just confused. And maybe Alex Albon does just really like a nice, juicy Florida orange, and that's completely okay. But to make it your entire personality, Alex, is maybe a little bit sad. I don't know. Lando Norris looks like an extra from kind of a Groove Armada music video from the 90s, which I think he's done particularly well. The other thing as well with Lando Norris's one, and I don't know whether it is as reflective as what the PR shot looks like, but I'm curious as to see what that is in his car driving around a very bright Miami kind of Sunday afternoon with the sun kind of beaming off it in different directions. Like, is this going to be upsetting the driver in front if they can see kind of the laser beam come off his forehead into their mirror back into their eyes? Is he going to apex it and all of a sudden the car coming in behind him just goes, I'm blind, and goes straight on into the wall? I don't know. I hope that isn't the case, but I feel like Lando Norris is going to be sat down with the head of HR or the head of what do they call it in proper jobs? I've been self-employed for ages, but those people that kind of make sure idiots don't hurt themselves at work. Health and safety. There you go. He's going to sit down with Formula One's chief health and safety executive on Friday after FP1 and be told that actually, Lando, sorry, slips and trips cause the most injuries in the workplace, but actually your helmet's giving it a pretty good run at the minute.
Do you think, and I don't know the answer to this, I assume it must be the case, is there like an approvals process for Formula One driver helmets?
Until you get it out there, how do you know what it's going to be like?
But and do you have to get your design approved? Is there must be like brand guidelines for driver helmets, surely, of what you can and can't do? Because I mean, if we believe the renders, it is actually tiny. Now, I assume it's not actually shards of reflective glass all over his head. I'm sure they've, but there must be. If I wanted to run an LED helmet that like just look like a yellow flag constantly, is there something in the sporting regulations that says I can't wear a Daft Punk Dead Mouse like LED powered helmet? But it feels like there must be, but then that also feels like, what's that regulation around like driver head color guidelines? But yeah, again, I keep acting as if I know what I'm talking about with this, but like in the world of cricket, for example, you have to get your shirt approved by the governing body. You design it, you send them off to them, and they come back and say, yeah, sweet, no problems. I'm assuming there must be the same with liveries and helmets in Formula One. But that means there's someone's job at Formula One to rubber stamp Lando Norris's helmet, and that is like wonderful. But yeah, I'm Team Albon. I think I looked at them before coming on. The only thing I'll say is, and I couldn't quite tell from the pictures, and this might be the case, and you'll have to forgive me, fellow Alex, if I have got this wrong, because he's obviously watching. Lando Norris is very good with his helmets, because if he goes all out on an idea, if he does a beach ball helmet, there's detail that makes it look like it's an actual beach ball, and he's got his mirror ball helmet that actually looks like a mirror ball. Is Alex Albon's helmet just flat orange? I feel like I'm missing the dimply skin texture to go photorealistic on the helmet. That it does just kind of become, to use our earlier analogy, a lack of paddock pass orange designless helmet. But he might not like photorealistic helmets. It's entirely his choice. But it would have been cool, I think, for him to have stuck his head inside an actual orange with like a load of the little dot textures, like what Lando did with the basketball one. As I said, Lando's very good with his helmet designs.
I think Alex Albon's helmet is far less likely to be ripped off his neck after FP1 by Max Verstappen than what Lando Norris's is. So
yes.
I don't know. I am so excited to see what this Lando one actually is in the flesh.
Photographers must hate it.
Yeah, because as you say, it does look like it is just kind of little bits of disco ball that are just glued onto an original helmet, but it can't be. So,
I saw the original promo photos for it, and I was like, oh well, they've obviously just like photoshopped some reflections on to sell the effect, and it's it's going to be for all intents and purposes just a gloss, non-reflective but gloss helmet. And then I saw some other pictures. I was like, oh no, that's actually a fucking disco ball. Like, I don't know. I think it could just be tinfoil or whatever all over it, but it does seem quite polished.
It does.
Great. Anyway, there's one to track. There's the highlight of the weekend coming up. And then look, the Mercedes boys have, got helmets. The Ferrari boys have got helmets, and then Liam Lawson just decided he'd do one as well, and he's got a helmet. I don't know if I didn't find any of them particularly inspiring. I didn't find any of them particularly offensive.
No, they're fine. They are absolutely fine. But I think that's probably enough, isn't it? That's enough stuff on there. We've been going for 36 minutes.
Because we're excited about paint.
Because
we're excited about paint.
The paint-sniffing podcast.
Before we pick some teams, should we have a quick little chat about the tour around the Madring that we both had before we got started?
Yeah.
Because, wowee, I mean, it stunk the house down, didn't it? Like, I'm sure it's been designed by someone very intelligent, and I'm sure there's reasons the track that it is how it is, and we may be wrong. We were all wrong with Vegas. Vegas produced surprisingly good racing for a track that we all went, that's going to produce shit racing. God, it looks like the Madring's going to produce some shit racing with a shit name, isn't it?
Yeah, it does. It doesn't look good. I mean, whoever was kind of driving it on their Xbox controller pad made a horrendous job of it anyway. And I dare say the actual Formula One drivers will do a marginally better job at getting it around the bends than what they managed to. But we've got enough of those circuits now.
Yes, I think that's great.
We don't need more. We've got one this weekend. We had one last weekend. We've got another couple to look forward to later on in the season as well. We don't need another one. We don't need another one that almost looks like a genuine replica of what we had last weekend as well. I don't know why the road was red either. I mean, that'd be a turn up for the books, wouldn't it, if the actual circuit was red? But seems unlikely.
Now, I don't wish to discredit Formula E, and I understand that Formula One and Formula E are two very different racing series. It's not an RB and Red Bull situation. But leave the shit posting tracks for Formula E, right? They work better on that. They're small, they're nimble, they throw themselves around chicanes much better, and they can sort of bump into each other and get away with it a little bit more. So give the Madring to Formula E. Let them have their own special event. I think it would work relatively well around there, and we'll keep Barcelona for the big boy cars. Which again would be slightly better if they were slightly smaller and could throw themselves around a little bit more. Yeah. But it feels like they're trying to race Formula One on a Formula E track, and they're trying to apply that Formula E mold to Formula One, and it doesn't work. I know exactly why it's all happening, but it just doesn't work.
No, and I mean it does kind of work with Saudi, with Miami. It does kind of work. We just don't need more of them.
Yeah.
We don't need more of the same stuff. We need variety. That's why I think what made those original circuits so unique is the fact that, yes, fine, they were kind of mostly stuck out in forests out the way from big cities. It made getting there difficult, I suppose. Mm-hmm. You couldn't just hop on the number 67 bus from downtown Madrid and pop off at the pit stop or the pit lane. But everything had its own uniqueness with big elevation changes and contours in the lands and things like that. Yeah. Whereas now it does genuinely look like you could race on the same circuit, change the wall colour and just go, well, I don't know where I am now, to be completely honest with you. So yeah, I'm not looking forward to it. And the other thing as well is I suspect as to why Formula One is going to go to the Madring and not stay at Barcelona and not be used by Formula E is because nobody really likes Formula E. And there's not much money in it in comparison to what there is in Formula One.
There's definitely not
but
much money.
I dare say it will be a Formula E circuit at some point as well.
Yeah.
Or bit of it anyway.
Very last point on that, which is just a thought that's come to mind. The Jeddah Corniche. That's a street circuit. That's a purpose-made street circuit, right? That's not using any element of like public infrastructure that they also. It's not like an Albert Park situation. It's
or an Azerbaijan.
It's a specifically made. It just happens to be street circuit styled, but it's a normal one, right?
Correct.
Interesting.
As far as I'm aware, anyway. As far as I'm aware, yes.
I know people don't dislike Jeddah, and people just dislike that we have too many of those. But if you potentially took the walls out of Jeddah because you don't necessarily need them because you've just made a racetrack, would people feel better about Jeddah and its place on the calendar? Like, do people see walls and go street circuit and we don't need it? Or is Jeddah an outlier because it does actually produce relatively good racing despite being a concrete jungle track? Like, do we need gravel and grass for people to like a track?
No, I think it goes back to what I said, like a little bit of uniqueness. Yeah. And Jeddah does provide that because it is so fast. A bit like Singapore. I think Singapore kind of holds a bit of a special place because of the uniqueness in the fact that it was the first night race, the first kind of that form of street circuit, the fact that it's nearly a figure of 8, the fact that it takes pretty much the entirety of the 2-hour window that you could race a Grand Prix. It has that uniqueness about it, whereas this Madring, we don't know yet, do we? All we've done is seen some spotty teenager drive around it on an iRacing download, so we don't know what it's actually going to be like. But based on the first impression of it, based on the overhead shots of the circuit, and based on what we've experienced before from different street circuits around the world, and we're looking at you here, Spain, with that one in Valencia that you tried to run a couple of years ago, it's going to be bad.
Yeah. Speaking of going to be bad, should we pick some drivers for our own teams?
I'd love to. I think you get first spin this week as well. But
right.
For those that didn't miss last week, and for those of you that are listening to this for the first time, you have absolutely no idea what we're talking about. Firstly, fair play to you for making it 41 minutes through a podcast that you've never listened to us before in your life. So thank you for doing that. But we are randomly selecting on the wheel of misfortune 2 drivers to race in our fictional Formula One teams across the course of the 2025 Formula One World Championship. So far, there is a 2-point difference between us after 5 rounds. Alex, you're on 67 points. I'm on 65. Sometimes the world gives you lemons.
Yep.
Sometimes it gives you beautiful, delicious chocolate.
Should we have a look at my lemon?
Yeah, I think you definitely had a pair of lemons last week. But
right.
hopefully you get some good ones this week. Let's see.
Here we go.
First.
Nice, fresh Miami orange, please.
Oh, it's a good
Thank
place
you.
to land.
Max EV, New Dad Energy. Here we go. Well, actually, now I'm excited. But then I do remember that he also probably hasn't slept in the last 36 hours and is going to be turning out quite late to the track with absolutely no head in the game for Formula One this week.
But he never really did anyway, did he? Because he just sim raced all night.
He is also Max Verstappen. So
he is.
I will absolutely take him. To be honest, it was in a nice little wedge there. I had sort of Albon, Verstappen, Antonelli. So you know what? I was looking good there. That's a strong start from me.
Honestly, it's a good one.
It's a strong start. Right, let's start you off nice and weak if we can, please. Obviously, lots of points up for grabs this weekend as well with a sprinty.
I've not had good sprints, have I?
That's harsh for you.
I continue to not have good sprints as well.
You've gone over the top of Oscar and Charles to get to Esteban Ocon, who's got a jazzy lid. And has not been terrible this year when situations have allowed. But he's no Max Verstappen.
No, he's not. Do you know what's kind of... this is a complete random thing, but after 6 rounds, I'm starting to notice that whoever spins the wheel first ends up with like an elite driver pairing, and whoever spins the wheel second ends up with a bit of a dog egg kind of situation.
Get the statos will start running all sorts of... Get the James Maveys of the world into...
Genuinely, there is a little bit going on here. But anyway, have a look at your second one. Who are you going to get?
Who
it's
we got?
Going to be Lando.
Come on, let's match it up real nice. Let's have a good weekend. Let's have a good weekend. Not either of those two. It's...
Oof.
Okay. Well, I'm keeping it in the family. He's got a nice suit this weekend.
I genuinely think that is the first time that anybody has had like a top and a bottom end pairing there.
It's Liam Lawson, by the way, for those of you just listening with audio. Yeah, that's a real 2 and 20 kind of driver lineup. At least I've got the 2, and you never know. Maybe something could happen in a sprint race, and he could. No, he's not going to have a point in a sprint race. But he's got a nice looking car.
I do desperately need something interesting here to go with Esteban Ocon. Otherwise, I'm going to be putting myself down for a little 0 to start with. Okay.
Kimi Antonelli, big Kimi A. Yeah, you know what? I'm not going to call that a 2. You haven't got a 2 and 20 pairing. You've got more sort of like a 5 and 15 pairing.
Yeah, maybe a 5 and 18. But
there's sort of a question here about what's better. Is it 2 and 20 or, 5 and 15? Like, is there a...
Hey, if you go through and you win the sprint and you win the Grand Prix, I think you've done quite well here.
Yes.
And there is a great chance that you go ahead and do that.
You could be an accumulator of points.
Well, I think I'm going to get points this weekend, which is more than what I've assumed for the last couple of weeks. Actually, we've had for the last 3 weeks, we combined, we haven't scored points in 3 consecutive rounds.
Brilliant! What a system! What a system! Right, so it's Max Verstappen and Liam Lawson up against Esteban Ocon and Kimi Antonelli this weekend in a sprint weekend, which kicks off today. Apologies for the slightly later pod here than usual, but travel and walking and all the rest of it. In the meantime, Dan, if they'd like to go and see what you're doing, they can do that where, please?
Yeah, you can have a little search for Dan Jads on the internet. There won't actually be anything happening this weekend, but you can have a look anyway. There's lots of other stuff, which is good. So, and how about yourself? What are you planning on doing over the next few days?
Twitch.tv/HeyLookAtAlex. There's some city building stuff going on there, and then we're going to build a theme park soon in Planet Coaster as well. So there will be no Mercedes logo because I got to instruction number 4 of 417. I was missing a piece, so that was sent back to Mr. Express. In the meantime, lots of racing to look at this weekend. We'll be back on Monday or Tuesday next week to debrief everything that's going on here and see where that random championship takes us. Lapdown Pod on all of your socials if you want to go engage with us on there, or lapdownpod@gmail.com. Send us an email, leave us a review, share it with someone, do all that thing, and we will see you next week.